You have the people that are online, Jessica? I'm most interested in is Commissioner Rowland.
No.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, you got, okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Now you're on.
Hello? Recording in progress.
I'm trying to talk.
Hello? Can you guys hear me? I have the echoes.
Go ahead.
What?
Speak again.
The echoes. The owl.
I think it's working. Because I can hear the audio and mine is muted, so that.
Hello?
I can hear you, Jess.
Thank you.
I hear you.
All right, let me just turn on this recorder.
Okay, I'd like to call the Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 meeting of the Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:35 p.m. First order of business, the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Dykstra. Daniel Wall, Peter Grass. Pat Ojo.
Brett Olberg.
Jesse Schreiber. Kevin McSherry. Steve McCary.
Jessica Canal.
Okay, everyone is here. I'll see Josh for Roland. Okay. We have a recess public hearing, but we're not doing anything with that tonight. So we have a new public hearing. When I call this public hearing to order, the chairman will outline the intent of the public hearing. The secretary will read the call of the meeting. The intent of the public hearing, to have the applicant and or his authorized representatives present to the commission and to the public all information that is either necessary or pertinent to the application. To hear questions from commission members and their staff relevant to the application to the applicant's response. To hear questions and or input from the public relevant to the aspects of this application, including comments in favor of or opposed to the application, general comments or questions which are fielded by the chairman to the applicant for response is appropriate. Those people wishing to speak or request to sign with the commission on the sign-in sheet for the secretary. Those who wish to speak, they do so upon recognition of the chairman, upon stating their name, address, and interest in the application. All speakers will be allowed a reasonable opportunity to be heard. Speakers may not speak again until all others have had the opportunity to speak. The chairman will call for any conflict of interest from commission members. The chairman asks the applicant or applicant's representatives if they have a reason to believe that any of the commission members have any conflicts of interest. Correspondence, etc., will be read by the secretary. The applicant submits the public hearing notification, a certified return receipt requested notice of the hearing to people who own or occupy property within a 250-foot radius of the land that is subject to the hearing, explaining who you are, what the said application is requesting, where the location of this proposal is, when, where, and why the public hearing is scheduled. The applicant submits the green return receipt card, a copy of the notification letter, and a list of the property owners and or who occupy the property all within 250-foot radius need to be submitted to the commission. The applicant will provide proof, pictures with dates that a notice of hearing sign was posted on the subject property 10 days prior to the date of the hearing, detailing the following information: the statement notice of hearing, the Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission, date of hearing, time of hearing, place of hearing, the statement. For more information, please contact or visit the Oxford Town Hall. Just for the record, because these are text amendments that they don't apply to a specific property, so of course the sign is waived. Here. Okay, the applicant or applicant's representative makes a presentation, the commissioner, staff members ask questions. The public participation, general comments, or questions, the public may speak in opposition and or the public may speak in favor. Additional comments or questions by the commission members or staff. The chairman will solicit a motion to either recess or close the public hearing, and now the secretary will choose the legal notice.
Town of Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Oxford, Connecticut will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 15, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. on the following: Z-22-019, proposed text amendment to the Oxford zoning regulations. Applicant Beeser and Esma Salmani, 43 Eagle View Road, South Berry, Connecticut 06488. Proposed amendment to Article 2 definitions, add section 2.45A. Article 9, Industrial District, add section 9.23.3. Article 10, Special Exceptions, add 10.11.1 through 10.11.4. The public hearing will be in the main meeting room of the SB Church Memorial Town Hall, located at 486 Oxford Road, Oxford, Connecticut, and remotely via Zoom. Zoom link, passcode, and Zoom phone numbers are provided. At the meeting, interested persons will be heard and written communication received. A copy of the proposal is on file in the Planning and Zoning Office and the Town Clerk's Office, located at 486 Oxford Road, Oxford, Connecticut. Dated at Oxford, Connecticut, this 22nd day of February 2022. By Jessica Pennell, Coordinator, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. So, this is time for the applicants. Oh, conflicts of interest, sorry.
Josh Heights, no conflict.
Dan Wall, no conflict. Peter Bresnan. Zach Ricciarelli, no conflict.
Brett Breeze, no conflict.
Justin Sherman, no conflict. Does the applicant feel that any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest?
I do not.
You? Okay. Now you go, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Kurt Jones from Civil Line. And our offices are at 43 Sherman Hill Road in Woodbury. And we're here tonight on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Salmani, contract MD, looking to purchase lot 1 in the Pheasant Run subdivision, as well as Mr. Markowski here, the owner and the developer of that particular property. We've had good fortune over a number of years to be active and participate in the development of the industrial area in Oxford. It's a great story of success with literally, the last I heard is over $150 million added to the grant list. It's been a tremendous success, and I think a lot of it goes to the hard work that this commission has done. I think this particular text amendment tonight fits in well with the industrial zone for many reasons. As noted in the motion here, it is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development, And being only allowed in the industrial zone is consistent with their planning and zoning regulations. As you all know, there is another self-storage facility in town, Christian Road. It's operated for many years. I think it's a model of how to do it right. And I believe that this zoning text amendment is consistent with what's already going on there at Christian Street. The specific proposal tonight we'll get into later the second public hearing for the site plan itself. But basically, as you know, the self-storage facility is a fairly benign use. People come and put their belongings in there for storage and they leave them for quite some time before needing anything from them. So extremely low volume, very low impact in every regard. We do have this draft regulations. I don't have any further comments on them. In my opinion, they were relevant and would prevent this type of development that we have in mind. Be glad to answer any further questions that members may have or discussion or whatever you think might be appropriate at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No, past that. I'm hoping we're gonna get it.
I just as by way of a comment, I don't know if it's actually a question, but I think everyone was surprised when I looked at the regs for the industrial zone and realized that self-storage wasn't actually permitted. The way that, and would you agree, the way that the regs now define warehouse facilities, that it doesn't go into a retail warehouse or storage facility. And that's the need for these text amendments.
I agree, there is a need, at least for the sake of clarity, that, you know, it's not something that's open to interpretation, which may vary from year to year.
Or is that, will you keep that site specific?
No. it's just-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
So, and this isn't actually, I took a look at how this text amendment came up. My question to you about how it's well written with civil procedures. I had been in contact with Commissioners of Grants and also the Economic Development Director regarding this issue. There's no special exception, there's no permitted use for this. It doesn't make any sense. So I took a look and I did some digging around and pulled up some zoning regs from a couple of other jurisdictions, kind of placed these all together. The one thing that I didn't do, which was kind of dumb on my part because I'm an attorney, is I didn't check the Connecticut general statutes. In fact, the Connecticut general statutes do define these self-storage facilities. There are statutes that apply, not necessarily to the operation, but to the liens and to the sale of items. But so I kind of took the time, and I have some within the text of the amendment that was proposed that was through the applicant. I had some amendments that I would like to propose to the members of the commission. So I think council will back me up on this. I need to mention that we do have discretion to change as long as it's not a substantive text amendment that would surpass the notice requirements. We can make minor amendments to these proposals. All right. So what I did, everybody have a copy? You have an extra copy, please?
Let me make some more copies.
Yeah, we can make some more.
My color printer. I'm gonna go out. Thanks.
You know, there, I changed it, says self-service storage facility. The reason why I did that, if you look down to Article, section B of the text amendment, it said Article 2 is amended to add the following sections. I also included this language in reorder 2.45A to read. We have the authority to, and this is more of a form issue. I think just to make our regs easier to read in the definition section, we can reorder the numbering. So whenever we change a definition, add a definition, the Planning and Zoning Commission would ask for, we're going to change, also reorder the numbering. So that's why I had that requested. But that first 2.45A, I use the definition that's provided by the general statutes, which is section 42-159, which pretty much dovetails the definition that I had come up with before for self-storage facility. They call it a self-service storage facility, but it has the same language. It means any real property designated and used for the renting or leasing of individual self-contained units of storage space. You'll note that there's bracketed language with italics following. Or designated parking spaces or storage areas, because I know that the applicant, I think, has requested, and I don't particularly have a problem. Some of the other commissioners just generally, that it's not just inside storage. We have the ability, we can allow outside storage, we can allow the rental of parking spaces or outside storage. The way that the proposed text amendment that we submitted and also the general statute, it just applies to residential individual self-contained units. So I don't know if your applicant is interested in expanding that from just the self-contained units or wants outdoor storage, or if the commission is likely to have that. So that's why I left that language in brackets. It gives us the opportunity to either approve that or just the only rental space would be the interior self-contained unit. So we have that decision that we can make. The blacked out language is the original language, which is the same definition. I also included some other limitations within the definition, just to make it clear. No self-storage space shall be used as living quarters, no retail, repair, or other business activities shall be conducted out of the individual rental storage spaces. And no occupancy other than occupancy necessary to deposit, pick up. So that was in the original text. So that doesn't change. Again, when we get down to parking, which is 1011.3, oh, in 1011.2, to make this use subject to the special permit, you note there that there's a section, the last part of the sentence for 10.11.2. As in addition to Article 10, sections 10.1, we had 10.3, but that would apply, that would limit those conditions in 10.11.4 from the authority of the Planning and Zoning Commission to impose by way of a special exception. I think the town attorney would agree with me on that. So to include that additional those general requirements, that would include those general requirements into the scope of the special exception and thus the special permit that we propose. So it would require compliance under the permit. If we just left it at 10.3, those requirements in 10.11.4, they had an argument that we wouldn't be able to revoke a special exception if they didn't comply with those general requirements. So that's why I included that language there. The rented parking spaces, again, that's a decision that we can make and we can kind of debate that. I also include, this doesn't apply to the application that's following, so it's not site specific, but I found in other jurisdictions that have these type of regulations, although it's low impact with respect to manufacturing, it could be a 24-hour use, people pulling in headlights. So that language in subsection A of 10.11.4, which wouldn't apply to this application. I don't believe that there's any residential zone abutting this property.
I believe there is to the east. There's quite some, there is a natural buffer there with a large extent of wetlands, and previously there's been about 35 pine trees planted in the rear yard.
So the way I wrote the language is, it's a suitable buffer to the discretion of the Oxford planning zone. So we could look at the layout and say, okay, well, this looks good, you know, you're not gonna have headlights at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in the car door slam. So we have the authority to require setbacks, and suitable buffering. And then we'll note subsection D, I originally said exception to sales and abandoned property. The general statutes, this is why it's important, Connecticut general statutes actually define the sale of defaulting occupants property. So where the general statutes define something, you don't want to go changing the definition. So I just used that language and clarified that obviously they have the right to apply for a temporary use permit for those types of sales, but it needs to be done in accordance, and it cites the general statutes, which they're required to comply with anyway, Connecticut state law, to sell any kind of defaulting occupant's property. What's that show? Storage board. Thank you. And then I just put in amplified public address system. If they have another system, they can use email or anything that's not amplified. They can obviously do that. I think that was the intent there. And then subsection E again, outdoor, outside storage space. This is something that I think we can discuss if we actually need this or want outside storage space. Those are the suggestions that I would make if we were to accept these text amendments. But I think it's consistent with the original document that I prepared. I think it's a good use for it.
Also, I like the idea of the outside storage spaces, including it in the amendment now, because if it ever comes up in the future and we're changing the regs now, why not do it all at once? Because it's still at our discretion, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to allow it, so why not include the language at this point if we're going to change them to include it?
And where I got the general plan for these text amendments, looking at other towns and other jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions strictly prohibit any outdoor storage. I know I was thinking about, I'm like, oh, I want to see a bunch of junk cars up there, cars stored on the property. I'm thinking, well, I would rather them stored up there where no one can see them and somebody's, regulating it rather than in someone's front yard. So it's probably not a bad use to allow it. I don't know, looking at your site plan, where you would designate storage space, but obviously not out wetlands or, the way I've drafted it, I think we can require as a commission that we set the parameters and reviewing the site plan where they allow storage, that it be there on the paved area or,
Mr. Chairman, if I could butt in for just a second.
Sure.
That section's a good section if you're gonna have outside storage. I would also suggest that we put the language similar to the buffer screening under subparagraph A in the same section, which refers to Article 5, and make it specific to screening for outdoor storage so that it is screened more specifically, because the things that stand out to me in storage facilities are the large camper that's parked there and you have moved in a year. So having proper screening in those sort of areas, it may not be appropriate for this particular application, but another application come in and
we give us the authority.
for to do that. So I would just include that in there as well, because up above it really, it's really specific mostly to residential. So make it also specific to the portion that relates to outside storage.
I have a question. We have to say that the only district that's allowed in is in the industrial district. We have to specifically say that. That it's not allowed in residential or commercial districts.
That's right at the beginning.
I thought, thank you. I thought I put that in there. Yeah, that's right in the Article 9.3.23, or Section 9.3.23.
Only
Storage.
I I actually just read that.
That's what I'd like to. Think your eyes drawn to the red.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought
That's
that
permitted on,
permitted in the industrial zone, it's the only. I apologize. Oh, that's an excellent job. Do you have any comments about?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so thank you very much for the thoughtful amendments here. One section we would like consideration on is 10.11.3 B, as far as rented parking spaces. You know, this seems to be a little bit at odds with the outside storage space.
I agree with you. So I meant, I'm glad you brought that up. I left that in if we, obviously, if we weren't going to allow any outdoor storage, then I think we would have to specify. Yeah. But were we to allow outside storage, then that section would be omitted.
That section would be
Would be omitted, and I'm talking about 10.11.3 B.
So I think the rented parking spaces for us in this particular instance are more important than the outside storage. I was talking about it with Jeff Luff a little bit, and kind of the idea behind it is that this would act as a central place where people could park an RV. You know, instead of having them in everybody's front yard throughout the town, you get it in one spot, get the proper screening and have it controlled. So I would appreciate some consideration on that particular point to allow the outside parking spaces.
What we could do is add, in that subsection B, designated parking spaces shall be rent, or are permitted for rental. Some language like that. So you're just looking for storage outside, your outside storage is limited to vehicles, trailers, RVs,
Yeah, and
not bulk storage of.
we have to, I think, you know, nobody wants to just have a bunch of junk piled there, you know.
And that's a decision that we make. too.
Yeah.
So I think.
That's
it's
what
an
I'd like to
option.
avoid, yeah.
But I think it does make sense to be able to park the trailer and just do a camper or something,
Yeah, better there than my neighbor's.
all over it, yeah.
so I think you would want to do the parking spaces limited to trailers, vehicles, RVs, those sort of things, and maybe have language that say limited to that only, not allow storage of so, 28 cinder blocks and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we want to include boats. Right. And then, you know, your trailer with your two skidoos on it, that sort of thing.
the trouble, when you start talking about that stuff, you can say, oh, only stuff that requires a title, but there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't require a title. It's certain vehicles that are older, don't have a title.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so.
And then what about construction equipment, trailer? That kind of thing. So
And what about a car that's up on cinder block without tires because they don't want a piece of junk sitting in their driveway? I mean, I wouldn't want that to be up there.
better than we paid for it, doesn't it?
But.
Well,
You're looking at the front end of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
Across the street, yeah.
So,
There is a prohibition, all they're allowed to do is rent. So, you know, the car that's on the cinder blocks, the guy can't be up there all the time working. That's a violation of the special exception.
It's strictly storage.
The only other thing I might ask is if you would like to ask the owner or the applicant to see if they have anything further to add.
Does the owner applicant have anything that they'd like to add or subtract or?
Hi, my name is Esma Solani. I'm here with my husband, Mr. Solani. We're the applicants of this application. Kurt has really summed it up very well, and I think you guys have all spoken a little bit about what you want to do. I feel it's a really great opportunity for the town and for us as business owners that you guys would give it in consideration and to change the amendment into more price. That's pretty much it. I don't know if you have any questions for me. I really don't. You know, I think Kurt explained everything.
Does anyone have any? Sure. Hey, yeah, express, what kind of security do you have there, if any?
Meaning,
Security, like, somebody comes up there,
there will be surveillance on the property. There will be cameras and there will be security system. There will be for sure. I think every storage facility has them.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that, so you don't have any motion, motion.
There will be everything needed, everything necessary, motion lights and open lights, there will be everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else or? Yeah.
Just a quick question, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Along the security lines, what's the regular visit of someone to the site?
Well, we plan on having an office located in the
Okay.
facility, so there will be somebody there.
Okay.
And that's what our plan is. I mean, it won't be a 24/7 person, but there will be somebody there during the day. And of course, surveillance, I will be surveilling it all the time. And of course, we're gonna have a maintenance company taking care of the whole facility. So that maintenance company will be responsible for whatever security system we have on that lot, they will resolve.
So if I have a storage facility there, I
Sure,
come up during business hours and knock on the door, there'll be someone in the office who will say,
yes,
I can help you out if I have some kind of issue or problem to be
Correct.
addressed. And then there'll be certain business hours are probably normal business hours, 9 to 5 or whatever.
yes, most definitely. And then if there isn't anybody there after hours, there's always the phone number to call that somebody would definitely be able to help you 24 hours.
I think we're maybe, go ahead.
So as far as on that whole security piece, I
Sure.
mean, we saw what happened at Market 32, where people just come in indiscriminately and just steal. So is there a trackable gate?
There will be, yes.
Okay.
And everybody will have to have a card or a code to get in and out.
So it'll be gated.
Oh, yes, it will be gated all throughout the whole property, correct?
That answers my question.
Okay,
So thank you.
you're welcome.
One more question. There's no building material that was stored outside, is there?
No, not that we want to
So
either.
they're basically stored outside with these vehicles.
Vehicles, like Kurt said, it would be RVs, boats, things that are large, that they don't want to put on their property. Want to put it somewhere, just take it when they need it for vacation or whatever.
To the right of that site, that's pretty well.
It is,
Yeah. from the
Yeah.
back also, it's pretty well shielded.
it is, that's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Are we good?
Well, for now.
For now. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else on the commission have a question at this time, or should I go off to the others?
I have a question that I would chairman to council.
Please.
The requirement for, the chairman brought up about the gates and the key codes. Would that be subject to the special exception if we don't have it in? Can we put other language in this text amendment that says, and what other, kind of a catch-all for any other conditions? Would that be just imposed generally under subsect?
I think that would be generally imposed under Article 10. I think maybe adding a paragraph in here and any other conditions that the commission may want to apply is important because storage facilities are going to be different depending on their location, what they're near, what they're not near, even anywhere in the industrial zone. So something that you want to have some flexibility to add things. And someone may come in with a proposal that requires a different sort of security system. Maybe they have a drone that they want to fly over here. So you have to think about all that stuff.
This text change is gonna prevent anybody from working inside there. As far as, let's say, they're renting a den and they want to fix radios or something like in there. We're gonna put that in there to prevent that.
Right, it's not supposed to be a business conducted in their storage units for many years. Have had people running their auto repair shop out of the storage facility, radio repair business. So yeah, that's prohibited.
Flea market.
Flea markets, yeah. A barber shop.
I see it.
Right.
I'm in a building with storage units. There's business going on out of the storage
Yeah,
units
right.
all day.
It's worse than that. I've got cases now with people who have to machine.
And that's how.
And then the towns have an issue with how to protect them. That's one of the reasons why I engaged in this, because some of the examples that I've seen in my child. it could be, taxing on the towns to deal with this kind of thing.
Yeah. Any more questions from the commission? Okay, going out to the public, is there anyone here to speak on the for or against this application?
Elaine Bartel.
Please state your name and
Elaine Martell, 22 Old State Road, 1, Oxford. So, just wanted a couple of questions, couple of requests. Were the bordering residents to them? Totally thrilled that that's what's going in here. So we're very happy with that. Oh, and I, but it's not a lot. We just had a couple of requests, to make sure that it's the dark sky lighting, so it's not illuminating our whole property. Also, if it's all possible, I know you guys were talking to them about the security fence. If on our side, if not all sides, they can do, the buffer, the security, so that you can't see, I think that's what it's called, I'm not sure where to, you can't see through, it's,
That's what, we're going with privacy.
thank you. There's the word, thank you. Privacy fencing, so that when they do come in with cars and go into the shop, it's not glaring into our bedroom, that's the side it's on, in the front yard, that's basically all we're, again, we're thrilled, that's what's going in there, because it's a nice quiet thing. Of all choices, we actually said that's good, but yeah, just a couple things, and if they, put some more trees up, just to kind of like buffer
okay, that'll be site specific when the second part of this comes in.
okay, so the second meeting. Or,
No,
second part.
the second application. This is for a text amendment,
Okay,
right?
So-
Then there's the application for the site.
okay, so then we would request all that back. Okay, so today's just be saying, yeah,
Pretty much.
and the lighting, that's, you're saying site stuff, but that's the only really thing that we would be concerned about, is the lighting, and then of course, the privacy fence, that would be it. Again, yes. Right. But you're saying that's gonna be all the site information, yeah, like the height of the fence, because it's literally from where we are, and we will be on that, so that would be our own concern.
Yeah.
That's next.
And the storage.
It's next on the agenda.
Okay, so do I have to come back up?
Yeah, that was a
Okay,
practice.
then I'll be back.
That was a practice run. We'll be back when it's the same.
I'll be back there, so.
Is there anyone else in the public who wishes to speak?
Somebody else can. My name is Barbara, 1 Hill Road. Just a suggestion on the text amendment, we will not put vehicles, RVs and things like that. Suggestion it's got to at least register, because, we watch a lot of shows and a lot of people leave their stuff and they never come back years later. But if they have to register year by year, we want to make sure that we're going to take it out and see if we don't have an abundance of vehicles left on a area.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public? Is there anyone else in the public? Is there anyone else in the public? Back to the commission. Anyone? Going once? Oh, yes, we do have a letter from COG that's applicable to this text amendment. Would you please read it to the secretary?
To the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as additional other people from Keith Rosenfeld, Regional Municipal Planner, and COG, out of Waterbury, date February 28, 2022. Regarding a zoning application for Eastern Esma Salmani, description proposal, the Oxford Planning and Zoning Commission has received an application for Eastern Esma Salmani for a proposed self-storage facility in the industrial zone of the town of Oxford. Self-storage facilities are not currently permitted in any district of the town of Oxford. Staff recommendation. The NBCOG staff finds the zoning text amendment to the Oxford zoning regulations pertaining to self-storage facility requirements to be not regionally significant and present no intermunicipal impacts.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. All right, if no one else has anything to say, we don't have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. The commission has 65 days from the close of the public hearing to make a decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now we have another public hearing, we-22-019, yes.
031.
031, so, Chief Vincent Ron, owner, 589 Investment LLC, applicant Beer and Ismail Salami, 43 Lee Road, Southbury, Connecticut. Special exception self-storage facility site plan, constructed 30,000 square foot industrial building.
Can we have the public hearing now until the text amendment is actually adopted?
You can adopt the public hearing, hear what the site's about. If the text amendment doesn't get adopted, then this isn't, is pointless, so it wouldn't be adopted yet, but procedurally, you can run those hand in hand. It's at the risk of the applicant to do that. Good question.
Just procedurally, at the end of this, we were going to ask that this particular public hearing remain open in case we, first of all, I don't believe we received comments from the town engineer on this application. So in case we need to make revisions, we'd like to have the ability to do that. And also, if there are changes to the way the text amendment is adopted, we would need to be able to make some adjustments.
And I noted in your application, have you finished with wetlands yet? Okay, so we have approved for wetlands. So that's all, that part of the problem's off.
So we do have the certified receipts. That's promised. Mr. Chairman, good evening, Kurt Jones, for the applicant, Civil Line, 3 Road in Quick. We have prepared a site plan for special exception for self-service facility. Lot 1 Federal One, the proposal is to construct a 30,000 square foot self-service storage facility in accordance with your proposed text amendment. This is lot 1, because upon industrial subdivision approved probably 5 or 8 years ago. Access is right off of Willenbrook Drive. It's the first lot on the right. The site has previously been padded out through an excavation permit that was previously granted by this commission. The storm drainage facilities are in place. The storm drainage facilities service the lot that is called see from the site on the east opening, the driveway actually starts on the north side, comes down the hill about a 6% grade and into the area of the building itself. We have submitted a full set of plans with landscape, lighting. There will be no light trespass across the property line. We would note that the owner has currently planted 35 evergreen trees along the easterly boundary to serve as a buffer. And as we just mentioned, we did secure the wetlands approval. Because the site is already padded out, there's minimal cutting and filling associated with this application. As a self-storage facility, the demands on the town services are minimal, traffic is minimal, and the lighting will comply with the dark sky initiative as per your ordinance. And in summary, to us anyway, it's a fairly straightforward application on a very nice flat piece of land. And welcome any questions that
you guys might have.
Before we do that, got two letters here. I don't know if we've read these into the record yet. First one is December 9th, 2021. To the town of Oxford regarding the proposed storage facility from Mark Oskowski. Dear Mr. Hurd and Mr. McRae, these are estimates on my are applying for approval for a site plan at lot 1R, Pheasant Run Road for proposed warehouse and storage facility building in the subject parking lot. As owner of the property, I hereby authorize Mr. Estes Salmani, who is the civil engineers for one, to these approved before the Inland Wetlands Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, and any other land use agencies that may be required for the approval of the proposed site development plan. Please feel free to contact us if you have any further questions. And the second one, dated February 9th from Civil One, a statement of use for 2 Pheasant Run Road. The facility consists of a approximately 30,000 square foot storage facility as shown on the site plan prepared by Civil One, dated December 6th, 2021, with latest revisions. Facility shall consist of self-contained storage spaces, which may be of various sizes, leased or rented on an individual basis with no other commercial transactions. There shall be 1 to 2 part-time employees. The project shall be built all in one phase. All uses of the facility shall be in conformance with the Oxford, Connecticut zoning regulations as amended.
Okay. Any questions from the commission at this time? What the Eagles are going to be parked, that's how Eagles are going to be parked. Storage training.
So we don't anticipate any leakage from the trucks, but if there are, then there is the storage area that's in the, all the way to the rear, where we do have a
Catch basin there.
catch basin right here, and catch basin number 7, which this is to be installed as a hydrodynamic separator, which would separate out the roots.
Okay.
So the last catch basin before it gets into the detention basin itself.
And there'll be drainage around the places where you're gonna have the outside parking.
Correct, yeah, it pitches back, it pitches to these basins, and then it will go through that hydrodynamic separator. And it is curved here, so it doesn't have to just fall over. It is curved and be directed into those basins.
Are there any other questions for the applicant at this time?
The woman who spoke, Elaine Bertel, is that her property at the back of the facility?
I believe it is. This is our, her name is right there. And I'm not sure how far it is to the house, so I can give you that distance. But there is, on our side, there is a wetland, existing vegetative buffer that we were talking about.
Yeah, let's see. I'm getting old, I can't see the numbers on the small print. What are we about, a football field? To the property line, the back of the building to the property line, or the back of the developed area to the hotel's property line, about how far? Just a ballpark. Huh? From the developed area.
Or to the edge of the parking lot, it's about 200 feet. About 200 feet.
Is there anyone else questions? Yeah. Last time you were here, you had a set of plans as far as the rules themselves.
Yeah, it's a part of the floor plan itself. I'm not sure that this is in the set that we have. The architectural drawing.
Yeah, the architectural from the field plan. We're gonna leave this open. So.
Yes, sir, yeah. Yeah, that's an oversight that's not in this package. We do have that.
This. I think it's same with that. Here.
That's what this is representing.
Did get that information.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was probably in the last file from previous application.
Okay, let me go to the public. Is there anyone in the public that has a comment or question on this application? Is there anyone in the public that has a comment or question on this application? Is there anyone in the public?
Is that my turn now?
Okay, so like I said, so I do have a new question, so yes, privacy fencing, tall enough so, you know, the lights, cars coming out, there's no glare. Front yard, and I know we're talking about those trees which haven't grown in 6 years, but that's okay. Along the property line, they didn't really do anything yet. But yeah, the privacy fencing and then the dark sky lighting, like it's just a regulation of Connecticut or town, whatever. We would definitely want to see that enforced, so it's not illuminating. Dates around the house. And then looking at this, is this where you're talking about the outside storage?
We haven't gotten into
Oh,
that
okay.
yet, so that's a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And as far as like, again, maybe some the buffer stuff by the building, so again, it just blocks it off a little bit. That's our only concern.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the public?
The only question, because this seems to be an inside, and we're doing inside storage, self-storage. You know, there's, they haven't any plan on how to deal with like mice, roaches, any kind of a plan, because people bring stuff into store. Just wondering, we don't, I know, Dave Robinson used to have the storage outside. So people with normal, so I'm just wondering if they're gonna have any kind of
Well,
plan to take care of the rodents that may come.
that's only the road that shows you have to be, There's that one part, right?
As far as it goes, it seems it's still where it becomes a public health hazard. I can answer, Harbor, the proposed text amendment does not apply specifically to road harborage, but those issues that you bring up would be subject to, public health, and it's not ongoing.
Yeah, I know that.
The health department would have jurisdiction where there are incidents, just like any private property or other commercial property.
Is there anyone else in the public? Anyone else in the public? Is there anyone else in the public? Coming back to the commission, does anyone have any questions or comments? Oh, yeah, yes. The parking. Which of the areas would be for the storage parking?
For parking, overall, we have about 22 spaces in the front for people that have units. The parking area to the rear slopes down to the rear, the easterly portion, where we could utilize some of that RV parking that we were talking about.
just, and I have a question, of my own curiosity. Okay, we've allotted parking spaces for the tenants. But for the most part, don't people just kind of go up, load or unload, and then go on their way? Do they really spend any time parking?
So, in your proposed text amendment, there's a number of one parking space for 3,000 square feet, which would be 10 spaces. For this building, we're showing about 20. We're doing quite a few of these self-storage units in other towns. There's about 5 of them going on right now. One in Woodbury is very similar in size. There's 6 spaces. And this is proposed by a company that this is all they do, self-storage. And they're telling us 6 spaces, that's it, that's all we need. So in a sense, we're a little bit overparked here. I don't think it really changes the site plan that much, just by the way it fits in.
Yeah,
And we're okay with the parking, but I think we're very generous with the parking right now.
actually, there is. I was just curious, you know. I guess the, the need for tenant parking is minimal versus storage parking. That was my.
When I said tenant, that's just people loading and unloading.
Yeah, right,
An
yeah.
hour or two there. It's really minimal. I mean, you could probably change the text amendment to one in 5,000 or one in 7,000 and it would be adequate.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as a general rule, people, if it's just storage, people don't spend a lot of time there. They move boxes in and out. They want their vehicle close to a unit so they can load it up and then they leave. They don't hang out there. You know?
No, they don't want to.
If that's exactly the way the text amendment is written, they won't be hanging out there.
No.
Have you put any thought into, if you did allow outdoor parking or storage, the number of vehicles and types of vehicles that you'd be able to fit in that?
We are thinking, as discussed under the zone text amendment period, to allow for RV parking. And we do have, this area here, which I think would be allowed for about 10 or 12. In this area. Yeah. Well, closer to Hyderabad, it's separate. Yeah, it's separated out. If there is an accident, so that's 120 feet wide, so we gave each one 12 feet. That's 10 feet.
So that's the rear building.
Yeah, it's all the way in the rear, behind the building. And of course, we could, look at all the privacy concerns and all that too.
Security right in there. Maybe park that one.
And it's all fenced in too.
Right, the dark side, the dark light, stay at one. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Just with regard to, buffering the view of all these vehicles, what's the view like from the road? I'm not very familiar with the area. Would it be better to have the parking, designated rental parking in the front? Or would it, just as an appearance for the town and for the industrial zone?
I think they're much better in the back than it is being screened. The building should want to buffer. I know some of the section on those pine trees, but they have to be about 12 feet tall now, or 15 to 20 feet tall. But we can talk about that if they need, some addition or whatever, but they got a good start on it.
Or is it, choosing between, I don't know, the layout, looks like the topography is completely flat, so from the road you can see right in.
So, it is down to the road. So this comes down, and so the first floor is about 10 feet below the road. The building, I believe, is about 24 feet tall, so, the view will be hidden from the road.
I think it would be better at the back.
Absolutely.
The neighbors to the rear will have the buffer of the trees, and then, from the front, the the building itself and buffer. But I think it works out well.
So, any other questions?
You know, there was some discussion about the lighting, and I know you described the lighting on your C 3.2. Can you maybe just talk about the lighting, how it's full cutoff, and describe that to the commission?
Yeah, sure. So in our set of plans that were submitted, we do have a photometric plan sheet 3.2. And that is, you know, computer simulation. So you pick out the fixtures, you have your pole height, and you know how much light is going to be on the site. So, so that's part of the record, and yeah, we could talk about it, but basically low light levels off the outside the property line.
It keeps it below a 90-degree level.
Yeah, it's straight down. Typically, it's a fixture, you know, it's flat on the top and everything points down.
And so it doesn't push off, it doesn't trespass onto. the
You're right, there's no light trespassing. There's 9 lights, 456 watts each, 20-foot pole, so.
Curious why you're using Polestar metal halide lights instead of LED.
I don't know.
Because I was in the lighting industry.
Okay, you know better than I.
No, because I mean, just if there was ever a power outage, well, those types of lights don't come back on to full brightness, you know, instantly. There's a warm up time. Plus, they use a lot more wattage, so it doesn't make sense, quite honestly, to not be using LED lights.
Let me check on that for you, and I'll definitely get back to you on that.
That's just a suggestion. It's not a requirement.
Yeah, I think we sent this out to the lighting vendor, and this is what they came
Yeah,
back
I
with.
saw. Yeah.
So we could do better than that for sure. So we, you know, we'll do the calcs on there and show you how many foot candles. Usually, you're getting, 0.2 or 0.3 or even less foot candles at the property line.
Like I say, just, LED lighting is now the thing. I mean,
That makes sense, yeah.
And it's, right now. The new ones are fantastic.
Okay, yeah, we'll take care of that for sure.
Fantastic. Okay, if there's anything else? Okay. So, what's the date of the recess?
Next meeting is April 5th.
April 5th? April 5th? For the continuation? Do I have a motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Thanks.
See you on April 5th.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
So. They were in the last one.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. See you.
Okay. Okay. This point, we're going to proceed with the regular meeting. First off, we have amendments to the agenda. Do you have amendments to the agenda?
Yeah, I gave a copy of that.
Okay.
Yes. the process and Sorry.
Okay. And we'll go to second. Okay.
First amendment to the agenda, I move to amend the agenda to add the approval of payment to the CFPZA for membership fees through March 31st. 2013,
2023.
2023 to the agenda.
Sorry. All right, so,
That's like-
you said, you'll second that, John?
As amended.
All in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
Then I move to amend the agenda as item number 2 under invoices to authorize Jessica Nell to purchase archival paper for the permanent record minutes stored in the town clerk's office.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
That's it.
Oh, that's the
That
other.
is it. Those were the two most.
Okay, audience of citizens, does anyone want to speak on any issue that is not on the agenda? Does anyone want to speak to an issue that is not on the agenda? Does anyone want to speak to an issue that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, next item is correspondence.
We have one letter from Cullen and Thomas out of Derby dated March 15th, 2022 to Chairman Pat Cotarella regarding application Z-21-133, Picon Holdings LLC. Dear Chairman Cotarella, please be advised that the applicant for the above application for a special exception permit on property located at 60 Oxford Road consents to a 20-day extension of the time for the commission to complete the public hearing on the application. Per the prior extensions, the time period to complete the public hearing will expire on March 30th, 2022. This extension will extend the time to act on the application to April 19th, 2022, which is a date that will include both April planning and zoning meeting minutes. Thank you for your attention. Very truly yours, Dominic Thomas.
Just, I see on the agenda, we have commission action on number 453. Is that in conflict with this?
Look, the first, where it says reset public hearing on page 1, that doesn't have a date. That one's for Dunkin' Donuts. The letter.
Okay, that's.
The-
I'm looking at,
You're on page 2,
I'm on page 2,
the 2 text amendments.
right, T-22-014.
Yep,
Is this commission action on number 453?
that's correct.
And. Oh, okay, his letter is against the other one. Is against application T-21-133?
Against Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes.
Yes. So the actual Dunkin' Donuts application, that's the extension for that till April 19th.
Okay.
The text amendment,
Is until 5/3.
you guys have till 5/1 to vote on it per the 65 days since you close the public hearing.
Okay. So now it's deliberation time. Anybody have anything they'd like to say at this point?
Regarding which one?
T-22-014.
The Picon Holdings.
Right.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, I'll make a comment.
Okay.
I mean, I think, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, I think the text amendment revision, away from a one size fits all for restaurants, makes absolute sense. The reason I say that is because, two restaurants that do completely different types of business, one being takeout or mainly takeout versus one that's only sit-in, even if they're the same size square footage buildings under our current regulations, both would require the same exact number of parking spots, even though a takeout restaurant or a drive-through doesn't require the same number of parking spots that a sit-in restaurant would. So from that simplistic view, I think the proposed text amendment changes make sense.
All right, does everyone else have something to say on that?
I agree with Olber's. Makes sense.
But I agree in substance with what Commissioner Olber said, but the devil's always in the details. And I think I would like to see a little bit of a revision, as we spoke before, we have a habit in approving text amendments of appropriate saying, and yeah, I would like to see, or at least council go through. I don't like the terms, that they're using two patron dining areas. It's really an ambiguous term that isn't defined anywhere else, either in statutes
Or in our regulations.
yeah, and it's almost site specific to a particular application. And that, I think, is the problem. Like, we've seen this in other applications where suddenly we realize we don't have the authority to apply our sign regulation because in the fine print, there was another sign regulation. So I would like, before we consider this, to have a report, on the fine details. I haven't really taken a look at it. But I agree in substance with what Commissioner Olbrich said, that the one size fits all that we have probably does need some revision. But I'd rather it come from deliberation by this commission and input from our engineer and our land use attorney, as opposed to an applicant, because just some of the language here, I don't think we can find. What's a patron dining area? Square feet, the terms that they use don't usually apply in determinations of use and occupancy for public establishments. It's not based on patron bar area or cocktail area. It's usually based on other factors that the engineer, I think, should probably fit.
I think you're correct. I think sometimes when you speak about languages, you have fire code, you have a certain amount of occupancy that's allowed in the building codes. So those will all factor in, and if we have to spend this general phrase, it isn't specific enough. And if we spell it out a little bit better, it'll make the regulation, which is a good start, more functional for us in the future. Because then you can apply it and define it better.
Yeah, that's well said.
So, looking at where specifically the ones that your question highlighted.
That's something that I would like probably council to go over. Like I said, I didn't really scrutinize this. As it stands right now, I'm not in, but I like the general idea. So I would like to, I think it would be better if it came to us as opposed to the applicant. So we can consider all the different uses as opposed to just a drive-through coffee establishment, which this appears to be kind of tailored to. So, yeah, I'm not prepared to start picking out.
Okay.
I could sit, if we'd like to continue it, I could go through.
Well, we will be continuing deliberation because we're not going to make any decisions.
Yeah.
We're deliberating. And
When you start talking about items like these in the parking regulations, it's gotta be something to refer back to from what this regulation says. And having a better definition of that. Whether we define it in here as what's the cocktail lounge, what's the restaurant, have a better definition of that, rather than, and it's, we all have a thought in our heads what that is, right? Oh, cocktail lounge or bar, I know what that is, but.
With our, just to follow up, 20 seats. You can have something at a restaurant. It's usually not the actual physical chairs, which this would apply to, would be from square footage based on counter space and use the times when they're open, the type of, obviously, a morning bagel shop is going to have a different demand. After hours, that might have the same area. So on the parking, this, I don't think, the way it's drafted, does not take account of this.
What would be the resource to that?
Maybe the town engineer, and I'm sure council would work on some of that. It's my interest.
And I laid
I
out.
have a question. Has the town engineer stated in their letter to us? The town engineer said these versions are reasonable based on today's consumer trends. So the town engineer already reviewed this.
Read the last sentence. The president throwing.
If you have any questions to that, that's it.
No, they say,
Conversely, the amendment appears to provide an increase in parking requirement for establishments that have a high ratio of patron buildings with both area ratio. These are figures that are reasonable based on today's consumer trends.
I don't think you got in, no, we didn't ask him to parse the language and come up with better, more appropriate terms. We look at it, just like the observation, yeah, I think it's better than what we have, it's in the right direction, but we didn't ask him, you know, well, how do you define 20 seats? How do you define patron bar area, cocktail lounge, 50 square feet patron bar, cocktail lounge area, is that exclusive of the service area? In code enforcement, there are specific terms that apply. Building code, 2018 fire code, we have all those terms. They also have parking requirements. You know, we didn't ask them to look at it.
Basically, it's just like one more car. There's no measurement difference, parking space and everything.
So there's a standard measurement for parking.
It's that's a lot. I bring the pictures and show you different sizes of trucks and so forth in the parking. And there's, because of one kind of vehicle park. We're not talking about dump trucks like I showed before.
Yeah, that is, that we do have that record.
Yes.
Great, actually, to get something.
I think there's pictures in the record that were submitted. The definition of the size of a standard parking space is, I think, 10 by 20. So there is a standard definition in the regulation, so we don't have to go redefine that. I think we're looking for some definitions about the items that are mentioned here. And maybe that's something that we can always come up with. And looking at occupancy and things like that, and that is for sure, Corey's correct, it is dictated by fire codes and by the building codes. And as things are built out, certainly submitting something that's saying, these are how, this is what the seats are going to be like, this is what the bar is going to be like. So there's some detail in there that we could perhaps put into the regulation and give us a better definition about what applies for under item 1, 2, and 3 in these descriptions.
Well, then I guess we probably should have the engineer relook at this with these parameters in mind. And can I charge you with
Sure,
the
absolutely.
language correction?
Yes.
That's okay.
Just so that I understand. So what we're going to town engineer come up with requirements around what the fire marshal, the police, whatever.
Well, that's,
In addition to having it legally reviewed, so that the next time you come, that we'll have all of our ducks in a row and we can make a decision one way or the other.
Well, we will continue deliberation.
Well, true, but we'll have enough information to hopefully make a decision one way or the other.
Make your decision, yes. That's,
I can tell you, I just did a, for a client in Rochester, I did a proposed parking regulation, which is probably a paragraph long for including on-road, on-street parking, the overall count for the off-street parking. So, and the language that's included there is fairly detailed, and show things in here that would be very helpful. That hasn't gotten approved yet, but maybe it will be. But my point is that a little more detail is not that harmful to a regulation. I think it helps.
yeah, we're just aware, again, not being an attorney myself, reading this, I don't see those flaws, but usually.
And there's an extension already in the other application anyway, so.
So then, I guess this is all we discussed on this. Everybody?
I like the plan.
All right. Okay, where is? I need to tell Jessica to help you going. Is she coming back?
Yeah, she wanted to make a copy of this.
We want to have council actually consulted. I think because council is aware of what we're looking for. And
Yeah.
where council.
I'll talk directly with you, Jim, I'll do that. That makes total sense. That way we're on the same page.
Okay, why don't we do that?
If we get lost, we'll just tell Jessica, oh, geez, look at this thing again.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a fairly finite issue that we want to look at, and certainly getting it directly to my mouth to the engineer's ear, and the engineer's mouth back to my mouth.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that she's aware that's what we decided. Not necessarily she's gonna make the phone call, but she's aware without having to listen to the tape or go to the
I
video.
will keep it a secret from you.
All right, so then, I guess we're done with the deliberation. What do we make? What? No, we're just deliberation. There we are.
Oh, super.
I'm going to be calling Jim Gallagher directly on the parking regulations. That's all.
Okay,
And they're gonna hammer out whatever details need to be done. I just wanted you to be aware so that you don't have to go to the tape to hear.
then, she's interrupted.
For our earlier conversation.
Yes,
Okay.
all right.
It's the council.
Yeah. Please, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's exactly. Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right, so where are we now? We go. Yes, we're gonna discuss the next text amendment. -22-015. Proposed text amendment, zoning regulation, Article 5, 3.5, Article 10, new, Section 10.12, and 13.2.1. The hearing will occur on 3.1 and the commission action on it before 5.3.
Pick one past them.
Go back 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me 12 copies, just take one
Did
pass.
you guys make a motion to recess to,
It's our deliberation.
oh, that's right, I'm sorry.
That's it. Single page.
One page, take one pass.
What is it part of the?
It's gonna be part of your
We got it.
deliberation.
Yeah, part of
What Steve's handing out is the email that we received from Attorney Thomas regarding the application. It's something that came through staff, so we just want to share it with the commission. And I think it speaks for itself, but we'll finally, more information. Yeah, it came in through Steve and I,
Who's there?
through staff.
I'm reading this. And I don't know if I'm reading it correctly or not. But it says that we limit to 7 per year or 1 per weekend. And then it says,
We have the authority to do whatever.
Right.
This is our text amendment.
Yeah, exactly. What this is a submission from the applicant through staff that says very simple things. What they're reducing what part of their request. They can reduce it whatever they want, but it's up to the commission to do what you feel. You can go down to 0.
but I'm just saying that he talks about 7 per year and 1 per weekend. And then it says 1 of 10 events. So they're talking 7 events or 10 events. Don't have to-
No,
Yeah.
it's not clear.
What?
It is kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's a good.
It's showing less than 20 people. I think there's a lot to discuss. I really do. I'm not, you know, I think I've seen a lot of people in there past how many meetings, and I see people that we all know on each side of this. And I just think that we can come to an agreement to make this work for everyone. A hard no, or yes. I just, it's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And there's other implications besides,
Right.
and too much of this focus on site-specific issues.
Right.
We're talking about a regulation that's going to extend.
I think as far as the text and everything.
We have to discuss a lot. And, you know, I have a few things in my mind that I feel should be changed from what was originally submitted.
Right. There were, right.
Well, before we even vote on it, we're gonna
Yeah,
change it.
correct.
And then we're gonna decide if it's approved or not approved, but we're gonna discuss changes in any case.
Right.
There was a top, I think, Peter. Brought up, Attorney Peter, which Olson brought up 175 parcels. Only 59 farms in Oxford. I'm trying to get the information on how many acres and so forth. Right, okay. It's not listed yet. You got forestry, you got farms. Two different things. If you've got forestry, you can't have parks on that. You can't have walkthroughs, you can't have everything. It's supposed to, your trees are supposed to sit there, the deer is supposed to be serious go to the side. Right. Farm, then you can go with the events. This is what I was told from the forest, when they apply for it. For 89 farms here. Again, for no 7, it was 41. Now we got, I think, 87, and she's giving me the update. I was supposed to be today.
I think it's important that we, protect farming. And I almost got the impression that people have this idea that this commission is opposed to farming. Based on the actions that were taken. And that's one of the things I like about Oxford, but what bothers me is, and I think it should bother everyone, I want to help one group of people at the expense of other people, and that's the issue.
Well, this is why it's gonna take us a lot.
Yes.
Deliberation.
The problem that I see, one of the things that we need to really tailor in these regulations. I know it's very easy to designate yourself as a farm. I have a friend that has a chicken coop in 6 or 7. And it's one big farm, it's on 1.5 acres in Oxford, and he has a farm, so for somebody to have under the text that's written, and this is, the thing that we really have to be concerned about, the unintended consequences. I have 20 acres of property. I might not be a farmer, all I have to do is go out and get 7 chickens, apply for the tax, and keep the chickens, and I have a working farm, and then
One of the things that I was gonna bring up for consideration is the state statute that, and a proper term registers, recognizes, or whatever,
Yeah.
certifies.
There's only three houses. Those are serious registers.
And,
Those are actual farms that have.
and the thing is this, but if you have what we call a farm, you have to meet those requirements. That's something that can be written into, if we decide to change the text, that's something that can be written in. If you're a farm, you've got to conform to the state's definition.
And I think, that's important, that it's actually, that you're supporting farming.
Farming,
Just,
not because anybody.
we're not just creating
You know,
a way for someone who wants to.
Yeah, I mean-
Commercial operation in a residential zone. to do it under the guise of farm.
as in all honesty, at my house at one time, I had chickens, goats, peacocks. Right? Never called myself a farm,
But you could.
but I could have.
Yeah, and that's the concern, and that's the unintended.
Right, so
And
we have
I
to,
think the other thing that, picture yourself, next door to a big wedding venue, that's the obligation that we owe to our community. So how do we,
balance?
Yeah.
Right, well, that's why we're here in this session.
yeah,
We're gonna fix this. And this is,
I think
somehow
it's,
we're gonna be fair to everyone involved.
I think it's important to consider that we own the timeline. If we can't get this done in the timeframe for this public hearing, I think, whether we all realize, we can just deny this application as it is, come up with,
Right.
and come up with our own.
Yeah.
And that might be the case.
That might be eventually what we do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we do need.
Too many times this condition has put itself in the box.
We've got to give it a fair discussion. This is not, this is worth more than a 5-minute discussion.
Yeah, and I'm just like everything that's said already, but I mean, when something like this comes across, my first reaction is, who might stand in someone's way to make a living over and make them? But then immediately I'm thinking to myself, do I want this next to me? No. I mean, let's be honest, we all know why we live in Oxford, right? We all know why we're here.
But,
However, the farms is part of that.
and we have
A large part.
the people that are always concerned with Oxford's rural character. Well,
Right.
the farms was given rural character.
Exactly.
Otherwise, all these properties would have apartment buildings up.
And that's one of the benefits of having farms in your camp.
Right.
I like to have
So
a place where I can bring my kids,
Right. There's the balance we have to.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
And, a lot of the talk about being a commercial operation, well, you're selling vegetables or you're selling ice cream. Those are commercial operations.
agricultural, commercial.
And again,
And I think that's one of the things that bothered me, it's more or less the fact that we talk about the historic rural character of Oxford. And I think it's dangerous when you go down that path, because somebody brought this up in the hearing, they said, oh, I've read a lot of history too, and actually Oxford, before there was industry, everyone was agriculture, so it doesn't matter. Oxford was a mill town. We were an industrial town. If you look, go walk over all these river basins.
Oh, yeah.
Before there was electric power, there was water power, and Oxford was a mill town. Up and down. The Industrial Revolution started. So, if you use that, the rural character of Oxford, you have to, promote that. Well, actually, no, it's not rural, then it's industrial. And then the farms come in and say, well, we want to do manufacturing,
well, this is the thing, and again, I mean, Oxford was really a farming community first, then it evolved into manufacturing.
Yeah.
And, so
And it was sort of, it's, what happened in the past is that, my point is,
yeah,
let's look at what's best for the community now.
and this is where we have to strike the balance.
That's what it's all about. We have to-
Right, this is like,
Exactly.
I've got words I can't say on record on what I think of this, but,
Again, I listen to the people who are the residents next to something like this, and I put myself in their shoes. I need to, and I'm like, oh, I don't want that here either. And then I listen to these people who own the farms, and it's very easy, not easy, I shouldn't say that, it's not easy at all. But if a farm can't make it, it's kind of easy to just turn this into a development, right? So we need to consider all of these things. It's like, this was very difficult.
When it came up, when we all were kind of looking at like, this is gonna be a tough one, right? And when it first came up and I looked at it, again, being at a lot of these different venues and say weddings, right? There was things that were put in place. You know, the music was in an enclosed bar, right? It was set away from any type of.
And that's, those are great ideas. I think, the idea of having a wedding on a farm, it's great, just, get people up, but maybe if we put in regulations where you need an enclosed area, or
Right.
you can have a, what you're saying. I think if having, I'm in favor of weddings personally, I'm married myself. What bothers me about the venue is the loud music at 10 o'clock at night. I gotta get up and I have a hearing at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning at Stanford. Last thing I want to do is plug in my ears so I can't sleep in my own house. It's hard for me to make a living too.
Right, your kids driving the school bus in the morning, they wouldn't even sleep.
Yeah, so those are, so like you said, enclosed area. The real thing I think that we need to do is mitigate the externalities, which are
Right,
those,
that's the idea.
and promote the activity for the farm, but mitigate the impact.
That's right.
The governance and details, I imagine what a lot of it has to do with, I looked at Ms. Carver, who I know is a big fan of farming, and her comments about the 50 acres, she was on the board. I think that we need to have a better idea of, the impacts with regard to sound and how to better propose setbacks. And again, we're not dealing with this specific property, we're dealing with this.
Just for the record, right, to bring some statistics. Controlling sound and noise is one of the most difficult things to do.
And I think that's a good point that you bring up too, that this is not site specific, but it is going to be specific to every single site. So these really got to be crafted in a way where we can bring in an application and assess the kind of damage control that would need to be done to the surrounding area. I mean, this could be a lifeline for a lot of farms, right? I mean, growing up in Massachusetts, I grew up on a farm as a CSA and it's struggling all the time. These things can really kind of make the difference for them. So craft it in a way where the people around them are not as impacted as heavily as possible.
You brought up a point that I think is awesome.
And just real quick, when we're thinking of Tanya Carter's point that she brought up during 50 acres, maybe in alignment with, say, our winery, but may not be in alignment with throwing this lifeline out to all farms. So using something a little bit more scalable, we're learning that kind of lesson for this last exhibit. How do we be more dynamic, not one dimensional? So maybe it's not a hard and fast 20 acres or above, maybe it's a scaling where 20 acres can have so many people, and then as you grow.
20 acres if you have an enclosed space.
Sure.
And your point about, what I want to see is a system where it's not you take it and you run with it. If we're having problems, we think we do the right thing, we approve the special exception pursuant to whatever we come with. There's a way to have the public come back and comment and see how it works as opposed to.
Absolutely.
We have some further control built into the regs, so.
Some kind of feedback system, some kind of way for even.
Yeah, so, you know,
He's gonna be,
So many
on the hook
cases,
for
My initial reaction, if you will, was to increase the required acreage. 20 to me is a bit shy. Increase the acreage and reduce the number of participants. That was, my first thoughts.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. That was your
And
first
I
reaction.
think that's a valid first reaction, but again, if you go back and look and see how many farms you're eliminating by that, right? Maybe there is another control lever you could pull by saying, okay, 20 acres, 15 to 20 acres, this fits into that.
Well,
And it's still not,
Limited type of activities on 20 acres, if you own 100 acres. You're gonna have-
Well, that's the point I was gonna bring up, was that it seems like we're all making it, unfortunately, about when. And, we have to think outside the box, because if you had an agricultural fair, that didn't have loud music, would that be acceptable? and it's 500 people or 100 people, it would be hard to limit it. I'm not talking.
Yeah, and why would we want to limit, you know, if
We have
the
to.
neighbors don't care and it's good for the farms, you know, I think.
I mean, every year, many towns have their.
The state fair.
Their art fair. And
I know, but.
But excuse me, what I heard from these people in the audience, is that the two groups of people, I heard this, I heard that, it wasn't about weddings, it wasn't about concerts. Now, one said anything about a wedding or a concert, they said they want to grow strawberries, they want to ride their horses, and they want to play with their boats. It was nothing to do with weddings, basically 75% said that.
okay, you know. And again, that's a good point. But I think the idea of scaling is kind of now gives us some direction. Because I said, we're gonna talk about this again, I'm sure, unless you guys want to stay in the.
Yeah, I would,
I think this, well, sorry.
under the whole thing about staying at midnight, I'm just gonna just make. Yeah, I've got some ideas, I've got some ideas, that, you know, it's gonna require putting pencil to paper and.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, back when Jesse started this whole conversation, we've got a lot of work to do. This is, in my view.
Well, everybody's got a little notebook in front of
It's just started through discussion. All it's
them.
been.
Write down all your thoughts and suggestions. And we'll, you know, next deliberation, it's a deliberation. You've got some time to do it right.
How long we got on this, Pat?
As much time as we want.
Maybe better.
If we're not done in the time
That
that
we can, yeah,
We could just,
start tonight and start over,
start all over,
you know.
which we may have to do.
Right, which we may have to do, we may have to just continue it as our text amendment,
Right.
we don't know.
Right.
So, here's one, you know.
I'm just, council was shaking his head like.
That's a good, you know, it's trouble with text amendments when they come in. It comes in piecemeal to you, and you have to take the time to look at the overall picture. What's it gonna impact? How's it gonna impact whatever's gonna happen with that interpretation? And as you saw, many of the folks who came in to speak about it, talked specifically about a site. Not appropriate for a text amendment, because we as a commission have to look at the entire town. Where are these 20-acre pieces that are going to be impacted? What's that going to impact in the neighborhoods? Who are going to be affected by a decision? And what's the most appropriate way to control that impact? Lessen it to a degree so it's not a heavy impact on a neighbor. That's kind of a very difficult road to run. And as a commission, trying to be prescient about it is not easy.
As it relates to the timeline, so we're in good state.
Yes.
We can continue on our own.
And I think that, at this point, Commissioner Zabras has been researching farms and the sizes and so on, and where they are, and what have you.
Like I said,
It's kind of an onerous task.
well, that's where they had their bill set. But I got it written up for 2021, to do some farm, we do off the forestry, and some we do off the farm. But I don't have any acreage, it's got a lot of gas. So that's, yeah. Maybe not next week. But we have a lot of work.
Through the commission to council, we can submit like our draft proposals during deliberations and.
Yes.
We have that.
I could submit an amendment that starts with the word "the," and you could just change the whole darn.
No, but I mean, if Commissioner Zabras comes up with some information that he wants us to see with the deliberations as it's relevant to this text, we can consider that even though it's coming in just in deliberations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's his work product, it's not external work product.
And staff can receive information from parties that are interested and refer it to the commission and bring it forward. The commission can look at it, discard it, or consider it. So that's all part of the give and take.
Good question. Sure.
Seeing that it was the applicant who proposed the text amendment, and we are coming up on summer/fall. Is the applicant still in a cease and desist mode where anything that they may have schedule in the future cannot go forward.
As a point of order, I don't know if that's appropriate in deliberation about a general text amendment. I don't think we should.
Okay.
I think
Then
we're
I'll
sort of-
ask it later.
I think we're outside of it, while we're in this count, I think that's outside of the.
The only reason I brought it is because the applicant is the person who put the cease and desist on.
You can discuss that by phone tomorrow, whatever. we don't move forward.
We can ask him tonight. Not during this, but outside of this deliberation, I can ask him tonight.
Part of the agenda, yeah, why not?
Because you have to think of text amendment in the scheme of what it is.
No,
Text amendments
understood.
everywhere over town, not site specific as we told everyone else.
No, understood. Okay.
But a good question for later.
Okay, so, is there anything else for this deliberation? Should we move on?
I think we've all got our own discussion.
Yeah, we all got our homework. It was everyone, please. Join in. Be part of it. The audience. Oh, that's okay. Okay. All right, actually. Moving on. Old business, none. New business. We have to schedule a public hearing. Okay. New business. Zoning enforcement, should we have anything?
No, no, I'm good.
I'll ask, I'm gonna follow up with my same question you just asked.
Yeah.
If I should,
What?
I don't know. Then I'll withdraw my question.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Minutes. Where do we stand? We good?
You have two in your packet.
Okay. That's the 12/7/21.
And
Do I have a motion?
make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, abstained? Do I have a motion on the second one? Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed, abstained? Carried. We have two invoices that we have to do.
one invoice.
Well, one invoice.
$10 for the.
Just, you provided that earlier, right?
Yes. That's the $110 for the, yeah,
Connecticut.
take that.
We have an income.
Down here, this is done.
Yes, we have an invoice for $110 for membership dues through March 31st, 2023.
Motion to pay. Second. All in favor? Abstain. Okay, that's that. And what's the other?
The other, if there was no invoice, but we have to buy the paper for the invoice.
Okay, I need a motion to authorize Jessica to purchase the special paper that's required for the official records at the town clerk's office.
So. Maybe.
Put it on the agenda.
Oh, okay. I have to make a motion for this commission to buy Jessica another computer, so she's using her own personal computer.
Well, that's another issue I was gonna bring up under other business. Well,
Sorry.
we have a, make sure we have a problem as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll discuss it under other business. Okay. All right. Let's see, now we are under other business. The letter from Lisa Foster, anything on that?
Is that, do you have anything on that, Kevin?
I don't. Riverview Drive, nothing, okay. Been referred to. Yeah. Okay, we'll just move on. The discussion about like the new land use opt-out position.
Nope, we have to do this.
We have this, this letter. Yeah, it's different.
Is that you? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I didn't give you the backup. I got it.
All right.
We have a letter to Mr. Pat Petrillo, Chair of Planning and Zoning, regarding Riverbend Community Action Committee. Mr. Petrillo and Atlas Young Engineers performed an inspection at the reference site on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. This project is a private complex with a private road and drainage system. All the units are complete and all services are stabilized. Therefore, Atlas Young Engineers recommends release of the soil erosion control bond with the following conditions. One, that the road remain a private road owned and maintained by the Riverbank community. And two, all catch basins be cleaned of soil, sand, and debris. If you should have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Sincerely, Jim Gallagher.
We put conditions on the release of the bond.
I think
That's the whole purpose of, once we release the bond, we have no ability to put conditions on it.
you never have to release the whole thing. You can say that we're going to release down to this amount and we're holding it. So we're satisfied with all the conditions have been met.
And who determines the amount to assure those two conditions?
Usually you have the engineer do that.
We have to send it back to him for yet another.
This has been there forever.
When I called through Gal, I asked him to go to the map. Yeah, that's what engineers, they have to all that.
All I
stuff.
can do is divide by 3.
I guess we're not. kissing that.
Lawyer map.
Okay.
Huh?
All right, then we got about the new land use opt-out provision. Everybody is familiar with those. The new legislation was passed in Hartford. And there's a couple of key requirements that town can opt out. We have to move on it.
Yeah, there's two provisions, and maybe I can help Mr. Chairman. There's one for accessory dwelling units, that there are certain requirements to adopt in the regulations to provide for accessory dwelling units on single-family parcels. You can opt out of that provision, but you have to conduct a public hearing, take evidence on whether you want to do it or not, and then decide whether you want to opt out, vote to opt out. It requires a number of parking spaces for studio apartments to be not more than one, for two-bedroom, a single-bedroom unit, not to be more than two. You can opt out of those provisions and not have it as be part of your regulations. Those are the two most significant ones that have been put on us to, we have to adopt it or opt out.
Actually, like 2022 or
January 2023.
2022.
For June 22, we have to.
It's an affordable housing policy.
Yeah.
We have to have an affordable housing policy or sent to OPM, but not really in place yet, but it has to be sent to OPM. Now, we do have something in our regs now, we just want to tweak it and polish it. Resend it.
Yeah, I looked at that. I think we do have the bare bones that would satisfy OPM. I'm not sure how closely they're gonna actually look at it. There's requirements to kind of pass along and push along. A lot of towns that are doing it. So we have the bare bones for that.
Well, there's a organization called Desegregate Connecticut, which is pushing for a lot of these changes.
Yes.
And some of this is the response to the legislature to their requests. Let's put it that way.
For the one that's, because June is rapidly approaching, be here in no time. What's required of the commission?
It's really drafting the policy.
But
Saying,
we already have. a policy.
right, so I think we just, I want to take a look at it and then we just say this is our policy, voted and adopted as our policy and send it over to OPM.
Yeah, so we can, yeah. As long as we get it up before, the end of May.
Put on the agenda for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I know my.
Well, I think we'll kind of wait till the next meeting after, because we're going to do all the other stuff for next meeting. I even got to come to Gallagher.
Is there anything you would like to add to any of this?
And that's that. I just don't know if there's a difference between a policy and a plan. Because if you go into P O C D, I think it's going on the website. So you guys better make it work. So it's going on the
we have-
OPM website.
It's a plan. We have a policy, I think we can stand on. create a plan.
Well, we have something in our regulations. Is that a policy?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
What's in the plan of conservation development?
I think, I don't remember exactly, but I know we talked about,
We talked about it in the plan of conservation. we also talked about details.
So our policy would be that language, and then here is implementing that under regulation. See that?
Yeah.
If it doesn't pass, what they do, they send it back to us.
send it back and we better write some more sentences.
Because there's three things. There's our regulations. There's the plan of conservation development, and then the third one is everybody thinks it's the same as plan of conservation development, but it's not. You know what I'm talking about?
Maybe I do. Maybe I don't.
Development. What is it?
Yeah, I'll work it out. Get you first. I'm 76 years old. The
Well, it's a.
comprehensive plan. What is it? Comprehensive plan. Oh.
Do we have it? If we do, I better. Do we have it?
It's the plan of conservation.
I think it's stuck away somewhere in the shelf of it. so
I think I have like an old yellowed copy
Yeah.
of one that like they did it on.
Yeah, it's all
brown things,
yeah, I
like
got it.
that you did like with the, yeah.
School.
You would follow the Palmer method.
Well, I would suggest, I would move that we just take the documents from, or we take the section from the plan of conservation and development as our policy, as it relates to 832, and attach the zoning regulations that implement that plan, and we submit that.
That's pretty much what it is.
And the thing I'm gonna ask Kevin, as you take care of all this stuff, you know, with your massive staff and everything.
Yeah.
Please submit your bills.
Yeah, I'm working on that. Matter of fact, I'm planning to have it one in April. I don't want to keep you a sticker shock from when I give you a 6-month bill.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, how to get that. I just have one other question
Show it.
while we're on it. I understand all the stuff you can opt out of.
Yeah.
For Kevin, where it says, where we have it on page 60, where it says new mandatory provisions that must be contained in zoning regulations. Does that mean that when we revise or that we need to amend the zoning regulations to add these things?
I think under the enabling act, we have, when we sit down and amend our regulations and do that in mass, I think that's what we have to do. Those have to go in. Some of those mandatory things are to protect states' historic, tribal, cultural, and environmental resources. I think our regulations may spell that out already, but consider the impact of permitted land uses on contiguous municipalities and the planning region. I think we do that by referring out anything we do to the region. Address significant disparities in housing needs and access to educational, occupational, and other opportunities. Yeah, a lot of the stuff, I think our regs do address it. There's series that they just require me to do that, you know, so we just have to go through.
Yeah, a lot of it's already in place, if not specifically implied.
Right, and they have a series of optional things.
Yeah.
And then they have a bunch of things you can't do, but I don't think we're doing them anyway, so I'm looking through the list.
Yeah, what I'm most concerned with is the things that we can opt out of. That's the things you,
Those you have to take an affirmative action to get out.
yeah.
So I think those are important to address.
Right, and of course, the things that we are mandatory, we've got to make sure that.
Right.
I'm just saying,
If
if
you
you,
opt out, because we know when it has to be done by, why don't we just, we're gonna have to have a public hearing, so it's January
20.
20, why don't we set, just pencil in something for around October or even September, just to give ourselves enough time so it doesn't just come up on us.
but I would say when you opt out, maybe it's possible to at least go through these and make sure that we either put them in or, because like some of them,
Yeah.
because I don't know what happens if you don't.
When
But
I
it
say,
seems like,
to the record, when I say we opt out, I'm saying the opt out provision, so I don't know, I can't prejudge what the commission's gonna do, and we need to get to the public, but We
Right,
need to know to schedule those, have an idea of when they're coming up. And that way, you know, as we're going through the regular business, if something comes up, we need to continue, oh, that's the date we're going to have the hearing.
Because those bills were massive.
I know, and that, there's a lot of
It's
stuff.
hard getting through them because there's a lot of things that are not applicable. Now,
I've kind of narrowed it down to what's what. And believe it, when I say what's what, we got 5 pages of what's what in all these bills. I kind of analyzed it. Yeah, really well. So we can move forward and take our steps that we have to take. But I think the most important thing is when we have to opt out of something, we have the opportunity to do it. Take those steps to do that, to eliminate those as considerations for us.
but I think that John's idea of setting a public hearing date at our next meeting or sometime in September or whatever.
I think we want
And
to
of
do
course,
December, so we can.
The applicable notification dates and stuff, but at least this way,
We're not going to be shut down.
everybody's already probably will have something comprehensive to deal with, so, you know, again, the add-ins, opt-outs, whatever, do it all in one package. All the legislature names,
Yeah, we can do that.
other than those people in Hartford, those people. Where are we? Oh, yeah. Budget. Okay, they originally scheduled our budget hearing for the 24th. I think you all know that, the Board of Selectmen, not counting salaries and benefits, cut our budget by 80%. 80 from what I submitted.
Listen, steps in order to bring relationship with the army. So she was unfinished, so we had to let him have the money.
Right, exactly. And this is.
There you go.
So we are gonna have, we have requested them changing the scheduled date in front of the Board of Finance,
When?
the 30th.
30?
Okay, the reason being it conflicts with our conflicts.
Oh, okay.
So if they won't change the date, then I'll have to not go. Okay. Go in front of the Board of Finance.
30 is a Wednesday?
But Jessica and I have been working on getting stuff together as evidence. Like, for instance, we have map cabinets that are actually a physical danger. The drawer falls out onto somebody's foot, they're gonna be out of work. Map cabinets, we run about $900 minimum. We have 11 5-drawer file cabinets in the office. Packed so full, you can barely put a sheet of paper in it. Okay, I wanted money to digitize all of that around flash drives. Right, all of this has been basically denied us. So I'm gonna try and justify in front of the Board of Finance, and hopefully kick it back in, because the Board of Selectmen didn't do us nicely.
Early on.
When you're talking about this, obviously salary and benefits, these are union positions, we have no control over salary. and benefits.
You're lucky you have staff.
So, yeah, there's been even talk.
Seriously, you're lucky you have staff.
Well, once the Board of Selection cuts the budget, the Board of Finance usually cuts it a little bit further.
There you go for a
So what I'm gonna try and do is get them to put it back in, which they have no to do. And, you know, like I said, is, for whatever reason, this was 80%, in my opinion, and I'll go on the record, that was vindictive.
I wouldn't expect it this year.
Okay? And, I mean, we bring in money that goes into the general fund, which space.
Yes.
Right. Okay, open space, that's between us and the other. But our fees and the like go into the general fund. So we're adding,
Contributing.
we're contributing, we're not just bringing down
Right. So the bottom line,
on the tax side, we bring money in.
It's
So,
like saying, you know, the police are agreeing.
yeah.
There's this, necessary expenses.
Right. And I guess, and then 80%, and I think that you sent that out, right?
I
Everybody?
did, everybody got
You
it.
should have got.
Yeah, some
it.
people said some.
The proposed budget and the approved budget, the last two columns to look at. You know, it's disgraceful, there are whole line items that they zeroed out.
do you think there's any benefit for any of us to accompany you or?
I don't think you can talk already. I think there's insurance.
Well,
We get them out.
that's another issue.
I'm going, I'm listening.
Right, so you come to us. You can feed me any ideas that you have, justifications. If you look at the budget, look at the justification. The other issue is the printer that just has in her office, the desktop printer, is personal property. Her laptop, which she is using for this meeting, is her personal property. But now that is subject to FOI, which is absurd. That this department doesn't have, they want us to be online, they want us to do all this stuff, but they don't want to buy us a laptop.
Stop recording the meetings. Put your foot down.
Well, one of
Don't
the
do
things, Ryan, don't do this. You know, considering some of what they've done, you know, I was even considering going to one meeting a month if necessary to cut costs. Because they cut the overtime line for Jessica. Now, Steve's on salary, but Jessica's on the clock. They cut the overtime.
Isn't in our bylaw saying that the planning zone spent money for the business, for the planning zone, it has to be reimbursed?
Those are application fees, like if we charge.
Well, no, she goes out and buys paper, she got to be reimbursed.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
so long as you want my laptop for it,
Right.
they're reimbursed.
That comes out of a specific line item.
Right.
Is there an office?
Well, that's one of the lines I'm trying to fix.
As long as past year, I've been buying stuff on my credit card and you guys have been having to buy it on Amazon.
Yeah, she bought software
It's
for
nonsense.
the desktop that she had to buy and then get reimbursed for.
Office supplies. Well,
What's zero?
they destroyed that line.
that, 500.
Yeah,
Well,
we-
that's because the prior year it was at zero.
Well,
So
the
part of
prior year was the middle of
I understand, but.
We're at home.
We need to go a little bit further
Further back.
last year, like, we're
This is why I say
this
this.
norm, like,
Hey,
you see what we spent like 3 years ago.
we used to have we used to have education for Steve, education for the commission. Steve used to have CEO, like, for stuff for him. We used to have,
The line items.
So they made line items go away. And just,
yep.
So it's very go back to those prior years and say, this is what we used to.
yeah, well, we
I
did add
tried.
some of them back
Yeah.
I think the justification though is they're already looking at tax increase for the residents of Oxford because there's some costs that are coming up. And with the recession going on, I think the Board of Finances have done not too much. Unfortunately.
Well, the thing is this, we're looking at, you know, when you're talking about, we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, I agree with you, you know, I mean, in all honesty, most of us could cover those costs out of our tax.
How was Jeff was able to buy these chairs just with a snap of his finger? We can't get a lot.
Because he had the equipment line item.
We should, we should send them a bill.
I'm surprised, because both of them are, we're on $300, they do it.
Yep.
And like I say, that's why my comment on the earlier.
As it relates to Jessica's computer, I think even if there's no money, whatever money's left in it, we need to buy it off, like, planning and zoning computer, because that's not a good situation.
No.
Oh, it's
No,
not.
Because some lawyer can come here and get that turned over to him.
What's right is right. It's not fair.
Why don't you have to?
So all your shopping stuff and all of the, right?
That might be fun to find out.
We'd have to be filing.
Not
motions to
understanding
suppress
FOI
over
request.
and over again.
Yeah.
Motion to suppress.
No, it's not funny, it's true.
Yeah.
So.
But honestly, I
people
don't-
here that are technically proficient. We can come up with for what type and.
Josh and.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I said.
Well, that's relatively easy, but quite honestly, going forward, I would put my foot down. I would say, I'm not recording any more meetings, nothing's being done on my computer, nothing electronic that I can provide. And if you can't provide me a computer, you're gonna have to hire somebody to do this. You put your foot down because it's your personal property, not for the use of the town. And if it's FOIable, I would actually say not in a million years are you using my equipment. You put your foot down, it's that simple.
Well, that, I wouldn't put my foot down to the administration.
To what?
I wouldn't do that.
Then Chairman Pocherello needs to do it on your behalf.
I don't think he should do either. I
Why?
think it should be from the commission.
No, that's the responsibility of the
We've
chairman.
been very busy lately around here.
That's the responsibility, that's the his responsibility.
That's
My
my
view.
view. I probably spent better than 40 hours in town hall dealing with issues.
Listen, if Pat doesn't want to do it, I'd be happy to do it.
I know you would. I can see that.
No. I'm going to, I'll take care of that. Well, I'm gonna be here tomorrow morning anyway.
You're retiring now, Pat.
I know, I've got nothing better to do, right?
I mean, maybe we should attend the next selectmen's meeting.
That's tomorrow,
I mean,
by the way.
what are we saying?
Right.
You say, folks, you realize what's going on?
I definitely think Pat should have some support at the Board of Finance meeting, even if people can't say bodies, I think are, I'll be there.
Yeah.
As to the Board of Selectmen meeting, that might be the appropriate time to go, oh, by the way, we can't record the meetings anymore because Jessica doesn't have an office laptop. She's been using her own laptop.
A, we can't keep proper records, right, as required by the statutes. And B, we have to do our meetings tomorrow.
Don't say
You
that.
just can't afford
Don't say she keeps record, don't say that.
it. Well, this is a record, right? So who's gonna record it?
I can't really talk. I really can't live it.
Well, it's not like.
I don't understand. They destroyed the budget.
You don't know they have, you don't know they have.
So she got a little printer. I mean, come on, man.
That's no shit. That should be on the chart.
This is crazy. It really is crazy.
You want to.
You for reference.
When you have some free time, you want to forward. What?
We're fine. Yeah, exactly. We're fine.
And there's even some questions on the grand list.
So are we done talking?
And we can talk.
I'm trying to find something to show you.
One more thing to go through, we did
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the conference.
Yeah, does anyone know for sure if Pete's going?
So do we pay for that or?
I don't know. I think all-
I'm just asking.
So the town will pay for it. Town will pay for it.
By taking benefits away from the employee.
Yeah.
I mean, we have until
I don't know,
March 22nd to do it. So as long as we confirm that they changed our date.
In fact, the speaker for that night was our former planner.
Mine will be dependent on the Board of Finance.
Yeah,
First
that's,
vote of that.
that's what
And it's going to be.
we have to make sure.
You should go.
You never went? Oh, it's kind of fun.
You should go.
Was that open?
It's fun.
It's not a bar.
And the food is still kind of good. I don't know. I always find it's pretty good. You have more fun than you really think you're gonna have.
How's that work?
What?
You gotta do party bus.
We used to have a party bus.
Where we used to have.
Oh,
Yeah.
John Maker.
John, wait, hold on.
John.
Who seconded it?
Brett.
Brett, all right.
Pick one.
Okay. Good night.